It seems like the top tier model might not launch until Zen 6 X3D. And I think this is a fundamental issue for Intel here. I don't think Intel can take another loss like this. Welcome to Broken Silicon, a gaming hardware podcast. I am your host, Tom. And today's lead sponsors are CDkeyoffer.com, where you can get Windows 11 Professional for $24. Minis Forum and their G1 Pro RTX 5060 Mini PC, which you can get for $30 off with code Broken Silicon. And then the Zopa 180 hertz portable monitor, which I tried. It is pretty good. Check out all these sponsors below. Dan, you're joining me once again for a news episode. How are you doing?
I'm pretty good. How are you doing, Tom?
I'm good. Last night, I decided to make a new Elden Ring character. This was something I was planning to do when the new, pretty small, but still notable little DLC came out for all Elden Ring platforms. All platforms Elden Ring is on in conjunction with the Switch 2 release. And then I was like, oh, I thought this came out a month ago. It's still not coming out in a month. I was like, whatever, I'm making a new character now anyways because I want to play it now. So maybe we'll have an influx of characters because I know you're planning to make a new character and so is our friend Brock. Although I will say you can still find people to play with them, just so you know.
Not a shocker.
It's still level 250 or I don't know what I am with my new character now, 10, 15, whatever I am, you know.
Yeah, well, we'll see when I'm going to make the new character probably tomorrow, or Tuesday, tomorrow being Monday when we record because we record on Sunday. Yes. And, I still haven't planned out what I'm going to do yet, but maybe I'll try to put a little bit of that when I'm like on break at work tomorrow and figure out what type of build I want to do.
I will say this is, one of the excellent uses of burning hundreds of dollars of tokens with AI. You can just pull up Gemini Pro. What's this build and what are the first weapons you go? Because that really wasn't a thing when we first started playing Elden Ring, 4 years ago now, right? Like it was 2022.
Yeah, it came out in 22.
It's crazy to think about. But, and it's like, yeah, this build makes sense. I'm going to do basically the build I did in Dark Souls 1 that I haven't done for a very long time, which is a nearly pure strength build with a ton of poise. So basically a cannonball that I just charge into a group of people and try to take them out. I've got the rusted boat anchor. Seems pretty good. It's going well. And there's a few special ways you can have like a casting thing that scales with strength. So I think this might even be a better version of that strength magic build I did with Dark Souls that you remember, that I don't even need to use magic. I can just use this and have a few spells I use. So for those who don't play Elden Ring, I'm sorry you had to listen to this. For those who did, get on Elden Ring. Let's play again. There should be a resurgence by late August because of the new DLC. And I gotta say, these games are very fun to play once every few years because you forget where the enemies are. And so it kind of feels like a new game.
Yeah, I'm not sure what type of build I want to do. My go-to builds are usually strength dex or strength. Those have been, generally speaking, I think my favorite builds I've had in most From Software games.
Yeah, and I'm usually spell sword, so like an aggressive caster that actually melees with the boss in addition to shooting stuff.
Yeah, but my last build I did for Elden Ring was strength dex, so I don't know. Maybe I'll just like look up like the opposite play style of that and just go with that. That's probably like a magic build or something, but we'll see.
Well, that's what's fun for me is this is the complete opposite of how I was playing before, where it's like no shield, glass cannon. For now, it's glass cannon until I can get a high enough level for armor. So it really does change up how you play and kind of makes it feel like a new game. But anyways, speaking of changing things up, let's change up what we're talking about, Dan, by moving on to corrections. Remember, if you support us on Patreon, you can submit corrections and tell us why we're stupid. Carver Cry writes in, as he often does, and says, in Broken Silicon 370, Dan proposed non-integer based frame gen. How would that work? For FrameGen itself, the ratio will always be an integer since you are always inserting some amount of full frames. Dan, I don't remember you saying this. What is this about?
I mean, maybe I misspoke or minced my words. Probably did that because I think I'm one to do that. But I mean more like integer, non-integer like multipliers, not just half the frame is frame gen or something. That doesn't make much sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that would be a lot better than what we have right now. Just so you know, it could feasibly like top off your frame rate, like so going from 100 to 120 rather than scaling like 60 to 120
and dropping to 60 to even out.
Exactly. And I get why that there would be a lot of technical challenges to that, but I do think until you can get that out of frame gen, it's always going to be a
pointless feature.
To me, a pretty pointless feature. Like
I think yeah, entirely. I mean, again, if you have like a Steam Deck and it runs at 40 frames and then or 45 and goes to 90, I can see the smoothing out on a handheld. I get that's like, but that's really the only use. Any desktop or even really console that can hit 60, it just feels smoother than adding frame gen would to go from like 60 to 120, right?
Yeah.
I get nothing out of it. I mean, and once you can just top off frames, like you're gaming at 240, it drops to 160, it just smooths it out. Once you can do that with effectively no latency add, that would be feasible as a thing I think that most people would like. But without it, I think I will continue to say I believe frame gen is a solution looking for a problem. There's a million ways to increase your frames. You know, go from DLSS ultra quality to performance mode. You do that, it will be less weird dolly paintings popping up. There will be none of them, actually. There'll be less artifacts in general. Like and it'll be real frames, real latency improvements. There's a million ways on a desktop to get more performance. The only thing right now that I could see is like a handheld that truly is barely able to run the game. Outside of that, again, I think it's a solution looking for a problem.
Yeah, especially multi-frame gen. I really don't see where 6x becomes a useful feature, just being fully honest. Like, so the only time I could really conceivably see it being that useful, I guess, is if you have a mid-range card or low-end card and you have a 360 hertz monitor or something, then I guess you could go from like 60 to 360 hertz. But that's exactly.
Who's this 360 hertz gamer with a 3050? Like, what are you talking about?
Exactly. Like,
although I guess that can't do multi-frame gen arbitrarily, right? So, with a 5050, who is this person? I don't know.
Yeah, it's just the person we're talking about is so niche that, like, if you want to raise your hand and say that's me, okay, great. But I just don't think that if it's not a useful feature to some degree across the entire stack of products, it's just, why is this here? And like the only thing I see it really advertised and discussed with very often is the high-end cards, which is like,
if you have anything above a 4070, there's some setting you can turn down to get more frames anyways, lower shadows. You'd be surprised like what some games will give you just by turning down one setting from ultra to medium. And you might double your frame rate in some games, and that's going to be way more noticeable than going to ultra and turning on frame gen.
Yeah, so. Like what person with a 5090, what game with a person who owns a 5090 are you turning on 4 or 6x frame gen for? Like, sure.
Instead of going to like medium quality DLSS.
Yeah, sure. I get 180 frames natively or something, but I'd rather play at 60 hertz and turn on that 4x so I can get 240 with 3 of them being dolly frames. It's
to
just,
be fair, that's the only way a 5090 is getting to 240 hertz because of its CPU overhead. So I guess that's the real use, but we should move on. Jensen Wang writes in, and he says, in BS370, you said that the Steam machine is 4 liters. It is not. That'd be massive and unusable and not make its $1,000 or $1,130 price point make sense. But it does make sense because it is actually a mere 3.85 liters, including the feel, 3.75 without them, a slim and sleek sleeper build, crushing all other machines ever made in pure performance per liter. Yeah, so me and you keep saying around 4 liters. We didn't bother to look it up. I double checked this. Yeah, I guess it's that. But to be fair, and this is a sponsor of this episode, to be clear, but the G1 Pro with a desktop 5060, that's like what, 50% faster, double the no, not double, but quite a bit faster than the GPU in the Steam Machine with a 16-core Zen 4, real Zen 4, not Zen 4C cores, and 32 gigs of RAM. It's like $1,500, so like kind of the price of like the 2 terabyte Steam Machine, despite wildly higher performance. I double checked. That one is 3.86 liters.
Wow.
So this arbitrary number, right? Because it's always this funny thing with the Steam Machine. I don't know if you saw this yet. I put out on Twitter the new AMD AI PC that's less than a liter. I think it's like 0.8 liters or 0.9. It's ridiculous.
So that means it's more than 3 times better than the Steam Machine.
Well, that's the thing, is it's $4,000, but it's also substantially faster than the Steam Machine, or it is faster than the Steam Machine. It depends what you mean by substantially, but it is notably faster than the Steam Machine. And I saw some people, and I did it as a joke on Twitter, like this $4,000 less than 1 liter. Now this is the ultimate price performance per liter that the Steam Machine people have been craving. The Steam Machine is a bulbous, oversized device. And then someone said, yeah, but dollar per liter, it's more. And then a bunch of people jumped on like, no, it's less. It's less because it is a fourth the size of the Steam Machine Christ. With more performance. It's actually better performance per liter. And if you don't accept that, that's how dumb the Steam Machine's price performance is. If you're obsessed with dollar per liter, then go buy the $4,000 Strix Halo Mini PC, because technically in dollars per liter, it is better than the Steam Machine. And that is not to say that you should buy that for gaming. You shouldn't. That is to say, that's how bad the price performance is.
Okay, Tom, but what if we add another normalization factor like decibels or something like that? Or decibels again, is a fair... actually, that's a bad one, because decibels actually is a fair metric to judge something by to some extent. But I would need to think of another normalization factor to get the Steam Machine back on top. But
this is the joke you made, Dan. It's like, why not 3 liters or 5 or 6? Everyone's like, it has to be under 4. Why? You always say it has to be under 4. Why doesn't it have to be under 5? Because you've arbitrarily decided this is the thing you're going to defend. It's not because less than 4 makes it actually better than less than 5. Like, get me a backpack, a pocket, like I think the AMD Mini PC would almost fit in your pocket. Like that's crazy. Like, there's break points where it makes a difference, and you're just arbitrarily choosing 4 liters. So
yeah, and let me. And I believe the like PS5 Pro, even if we're attaching this stupid arbitrary performance per liter metric that is now very relevant for whatever reason, I believe the PS5 Pro still gets a bit ahead of that, because it's like 7 liters. Oh no, it's 9 liters. Never mind. It's 9. It might be the Steam Machine might still be a little bit ahead.
7.5 liters.
Okay, well, if it is,
it depends how you measure it, because liters technically it's a weird shape, right? But let's just say even if it's 7.5 or 9, let's just say it's roughly double the liters or maybe a little more. Well, it's over double the performance of the Steam Machine, so again, it's better price and it costs less, so it's better price performance per liter. Unless for some reason 4 is the arbitrary number you've selected.
To throw more shade at one of my other personal bugbears, then Tom. AI just lied to me because it said it was 9.3 liters. So, boom, AI still bad.
Did you just use Gemini?
It's the Google auto-generated.
It got it right for me. So,
screw you, Gemini.
It's funny. We both did it at the same time, gave you the wrong number. Well, anyways, what a corrections this has been. Let us now move on to another thing that's screwing people over with story number 1. PlayStation and Xbox Network go down. What a great all-digital future. Quoting first from IGN before the write-up, Sony's PlayStation Network services have been offline for hours today. This is from a week ago, leaving fans unable to play some digital games. Unsurprisingly, impacted users have been left pointing to the benefits of physical copies. Just weeks after Sony's bombshell announcement, it will kill PS5 discs. PlayStation services began to disappear for some users around 8:30 a.m. Eastern, around the same time as an alert from Amazon Web Services that multiple AWS servers in the U.S. West 2 region were facing connectivity issues. Despite the problem being marked as resolved around an hour later, Players reported continuing issues in the hours since and in countries outside the US too. So yeah, is Amazon preparing to enter the console market? Because the outage of AWS servers hosting some parts of PSN could not have happened at a worse time for Sony. Weeks into the unrelenting outrage over the diskless future Sony announced, the critics of the move have now been gifted another perfect point to point out why Sony's move is a mistake. The root problem here is the mandatory online activation and game license model more broadly. Discs may help today, but not by some intrinsic characteristic. Discs alone will not help us if we are buying mere licenses that can be stripped away, nor if the game requires online DRM. Anyways, the outage not only strengthens the case against Sony's current course with physical copies, but should also bring into focus the greater battle being fought here. Discs alone will not force them to stop killing games, and gamers should hold the line. But demanding some sort of solution for physical support next gen, and more importantly, also demanding true ownership of physical and digital games. Note, the same thing then happened to Xbox Live just a day later. And now this marks a video or podcast I put out, I believe, with Hardware Unboxed, where I said Sony's not ready for an all-digital future. And then in the last video I put out last week while I was in Montreal, I said, neither is Xbox. These companies are not Steam. They are not ready for an all-digital future. I believe they need a bridge generation to get their ducks in a row before they actually attempt some sort of all-digital thing. And I think another example that proves it. But yes, Dan, what did you think of this?
Well, it's a little funny. Call us Nostradamus or Nostradami. I don't know what the plural of Nostradamus is. But I believe we also talked about that on the last Broken Silicon we recorded, where we discussed the all digital future of Sony. Is their Sony is known for having frequent server issues and
notable. I mean, it's not like frequent, but it's enough that it's like you do note it.
Yeah. And I mean, Xbox has also had its fair share of server outages, DDoS attacks.
I mean, I remember after PSN went down for, I believe it was, PS3.
6 weeks.
That Christmas that followed, there was a week after Christmas where Xbox Live was down, which I would argue is just as bad. I know it's less time, but Christmas? Ugh.
Yeah, and Sony, to be fair, like when the great PSN outage happened, I think they did do about as good of a job at apologizing for it as you could. But this just highlights the points we've, and I'm sure other people have been talking about with them moving to an all-digital future, is they're just not there yet. I mean, they're just not there technologically yet, or reliability wise yet to really sell this as a, I don't know, promising future or at all acceptable. Like,
yeah, I mean, I don't have much to say. I was on vacation. It didn't affect me at all. It seems to have been fixed fairly quickly, but at the end of the day, what poor timing for Sony. And I just, I guess I'll bring it up now. It was in the wrap up, but there's a proposal by gamers. I believe it's like October 5th through 30th, 31st or something like that. August, I meant to say. Like in late August, everyone is saying turn off your PlayStations and don't use it for a week. And I would say, even if you don't do that, just only turn it on exactly when you're playing and don't buy any games that week at a minimum and cancel PS Plus. I think I'm going to participate in that, at least to the degree I just said, which is like, if we want to play Elden Ring, well, whatever, we'll turn it on when we're playing Elden Ring, and make sure to turn it off, not put it in sleep mode. I've already canceled PS Plus for the time being. So like, I think this needs to happen here because, again, this is such an easy thing for some. We've talked this to death, but I just want to be clear. Like, the solutions are many. I mean, they can keep the disc production going, let you have a disc drive, like fix the ownership issue. They could even do a thing where they're like, the PS5 disc is the PS6 disc. It holds as many files as we can for the PS6, but then you download the rest and it works offline. Like, there are so many solutions to like not completely killing disc that they need to answer this. They need to come out and they need to say, we're not completely killing disc right now. And you own games that you buy digitally. Like, you can play them offline. We'll do the minimum. Like, yeah, look, there's an activation check. If you leave it online, every now and then it might check to make sure you own the game. but ultimately you own it. You can transfer it. If you die, someone else gets it, and we can't take it away. We can take away PSN if we think you're a hacker, but if you paid money for the game, you get to keep the game and play it offline. They need to commit to that, because if they don't, I'm sure there's just example after example that you can't give them full control because they can't be trusted with it.
Yeah, and just on top of that, some way to bring your disk-based library over, whether that mean you can digitize your library of disks that you already own, or they create some weird, awkward disk solution where they're like,
or again, you're able to take your
attachment.
PS5 disk drive, attach it to the PS6. Maybe I said this to NX Gamer, the last guest that was just on, maybe it will look like one of those cars that has like one of the door panels is a different color than the rest. Whatever, who cares? That's fine. Like, and even let you slap the PS5 disk drive onto the dock for the handheld. So when you're docked, you can actually still play your old games even with the handheld. Like, that is the minimum. And you do that. And then you have ownership over digital. That's fine. Like, you could just say again, the PS5 disc could be the PS6 disc. You could say cross-gen games. If you're in a PS6, you just play the PS6 version using as much of the PS5 disc as possible. Purely PS6 games, they might even just say, look, there's not a disc for the PS6 version because it's 200 freaking gigabytes. And it just won't work. Like, what do you want us to do? They could make that argument, but there's no reason to not let you play your old games. There's no reason for cross-gen games to not get to use the PS5 disc. There's no reason that we should not demand ownership of things that we buy. Those are the things they need to solve, whether they completely have discs this gen or not. And this highlighted it. So this piece of content is brought to you by CDkeyoffer.com. CDkeyoffer.com is really the best place to go to get reasonable pricing on Microsoft software, whether that's Windows 11 operating systems or Office products like the ones that I installed on this Strix Halo laptop that I was testing while I made this ad. You see, I actually use CDkeyoffer.com. I've used them many times. My family members use them. My friends use them when they're building new PCs. And that's because they've been a reliable sponsor of Moore's Law is Dead for years now. And so if you're looking to get, say, a new laptop, or you just finally want to get a legitimate key of one of the latest Office products on your desktop during back to school, use CDkeyoffer.com's offer codes Broken Silicon to save 25% on all Microsoft products. And then actually you can also use offer code DieShrink to save 3% on everything else on their website, like games as well. Once again, I want to thank CDkeyoffer.com for sponsoring this content, like all the other content that they've sponsored, and for making it easy for me to get a good price on Office on my laptop. Valentine writes in and says, I often hear that this console generation didn't feel like a full gen. I'm not sure if that's really actually a common sentiment or just a loud minority. I think it's more common than any previous gen. I've heard it. But he goes, will this affect the way PS6 is marketed? Would it perhaps make sense to focus less on higher performance and more on some new experience enabled by the console? How would you market the PS6 to overcome this sentiment? Oh, I've made this pitch a million times. It's hard now because now I'm pissed at Sony, right? But let's go back a month where I was more excited for the next generation. And I hope to be again. We'll see. I do think they'll be forced to respond. So hopefully it's enough to make me excited again. But like a month ago, what I would have said is, we're going to make the handheld like $550. We're going to make the, PS6 base console like, I don't know, $700. You can slap a disk drive on. You can play your old games. And you want to know what else? It's really good at ray tracing. It can do all of these things PS5 couldn't do. And if you're someone that's still on a PS4, guess what? The handheld is very reasonably priced, and now it can play all those PS5 games. It can play them on the go. We have all these exclusives. We're going back to exclusives. If you didn't get the PS5 because you didn't think it had enough exclusives, we hear you loud and clear. The PS6 will have more exclusives. And you know what? We're doing RTX Remix for PS3 games. Resistance, bundle, ray tracing 4K remaster. Our new AI tools allowed us to do it quickly. The ray tracing capabilities of the PS6 are more powerful than the PS5s. They're such that it was worth waiting to port the PS3 games with ray tracing to PS6. Get the PS6, get all your PS3 games looking better than PS5 games. Play all the games you missed last gen on a cheaper console. The handheld's cheaper than the PS5 was. Come on over. The water's warm again. All the stuff you liked about owning a PS or a PS4 is back and more. and we aren't overcharging you in a world where inflation is going crazy. I think that's a compelling argument. I think it would work, and they can still make that argument. They just now have a lot of damage control to do first.
Yeah, and mostly just, I think, parroting your points. Like, I think they do need to be pretty... I don't know if I would say handheld forward with trying to sell it. I know there are a lot of holdouts for the PS4 generation, although I think it's probably a little overstated how many there are. Like, a lot of people have bought the PS5, but there are a fair amount of holdouts, and I think just having a very good supply of any, honestly, Canis-based system, whether that be a PS5 handheld or not PS5, PS6 handheld, or a PS6 TV like 2 years later that can bring a lot of people over. I think that's how you sell people that are still on the PS4, because I do agree. Like, to some extent, I think there are just people that are kind of fine with like the current resolutions and frame rates that are available on the market right now. And some of those people are still like 1080p 60 hertz, and you really don't need something much stronger than a PS4 or PS4 Pro for 1080p 60 hertz, or but stronger than whatever Canis will offer, definitely, for 1080p 60 hertz.
Yeah, and again, it's like, if you didn't want to spend $600 to get a PS5, well, whatever, the handheld's like $550, and it can play all of those games, and it can do it on the go. You know what it also can do is play all these new games that you can't play on PS5 for hardware reasons. So, like, that's the pitch you make, you know. I mean, I hope they do. I mean, look, I think this is the easiest generation. I find it so fascinating how much pessimism there is right now around PlayStation because of the disc thing. I've seen it on Twitter, multiple people, like someone who's been on the podcast before, Myers Tech Rants. It's like, he thinks it's not going to sell well next gen because there's going to be too much cross gen. There's going to be there's not going to be enough exclusives. I'm just like, I disagree with the sentiment that next gen is just going to intrinsically be soft. This is the easiest generation to be the hottest gen if they just don't get lazy. If they just price it reasonably, their competition's high as a kite right now. I mean, Steam Machine, $1,130 to get the version with a controller. I mean, they have no competition. So you just price this reasonably, have a ton of new features and exclusives. I think it sells like hotcakes. I think you have another PS2 on your hands. Like, literally, that's all they have to do. And it's going to be fascinating if they that up. I mean, I just disagree. This is the easiest gen to be one of the best sellers by Sony. It's the easiest. No competition. Going back to exclusives, the perfect nexus of architecture where Zen 6 and RDNA 5 are bringing more performance to less power, which means a lower cost. This is the easiest gen to be a home run.
Yeah, and I guess on top of that, just as far as new features go, we've talked about this before, so I'm not going to like talk at length about it, but like AI enabling new gameplay features rather than just accelerating graphics in ways that we've talked about before. We'll see if like that ends up just being a gimmick that you see in the first like 2 years of exclusive releases, and it kind of goes to the wayside. But being really forward with like new gameplay features that AI can enable rather than just generating yassified characters I think is something Sony could really capitalize on.
Yeah, like, again,
and Xbox too, to be fair.
Again, you could just say, yeah, I know you didn't think the PS5 was worth going from, and I disagree with these people, but it wasn't worth going from 1080p 30 to 1440p 60. Fundamentally, most of the games are the same. Who cares? Like, whatever. The Canis APU, the one in the handheld, this is going to do 1080p 60, 1440p 60 again, depending on the game. But now the ray tracing actually makes it noticeable. And now in Fallout 5, you can talk to the NPCs and they'll actually do the thing they're supposed to do and understand you. That's a distinguishing feature besides just my games are smoother on PS5 versus PS4. That actually feels next gen.
Yeah.
Dangerman 1337 writes, and it says, "Hi Tom, do you think the PS6's path tracing performance will hit at least 4090? I feel like that'd be good enough in terms of GPU performance with FSR 5, ray regeneration. And I don't even think you need frame gen to get to 60 FPS at a reasonable resolution. If the CPU performance holds and we can have path trace games with really good physics, even though that'll take years and years after the PS6 comes out. Yeah, I don't know if it will. I think path tracing, it could be one of those things that's like a switch that's flipped. Like, that's the whole point of like when Jensen Huang was just like, it just works. Everyone memed on him justifiably. But long term, that is supposed to be the point of ray tracing, is you don't need to pre-bake all these things. You have light sources, you turn it on, you're done. It should actually lower development times and not take a lot of time to implement. I mean, they've used ray tracing since the launch PS5 games. Being able to use it effectively should be like flipping a switch.
Yeah.
And yes, I think it should be around a 4090, which, let me say this. Watch my PS6 Orion leak. I go through it. And to anyone who says it would be insane for the PS6 to have around 4090 ray tracing, or maybe even better, I don't know. The 4090 will be 5 years old by the time it's out. Guys, the 2080 Ti was only 2 years old when the PS5 launched, and it got just below that in performance. So 5 years later, no one should be surprised if it can do that level of ray tracing. That level of raster, no, I don't think so, probably. But ray tracing, yeah.
Yeah, it's a little funny to me because I feel like we kind of had the same conversation about the PS5 and Series X around when the PS5 and Series X were coming out.
We will every gen this will happen.
And maybe it's a little funnier now, given that like the 4090 will be so old of a card back then. But I do think there's an interesting trend in just gaming in general, and I don't know, life, where since COVID, it really does feel like time has accelerated in a weird way. I don't think it's just me getting older, because this just does seem like a common sentiment of people across like all age groups, where like for whatever reason, a 5-year-old card just doesn't feel that old anymore to a lot of people.
All right, let us move on to story number 2. Xbox backwards compatibility comes to PC. Quoting from Xbox before the write-up. Rolling out today, Xbox backwards compatibility on PC launches in early release, starting with 4 classic original Xbox games now playable on PC and handhelds for the first time ever. This marks the beginning of a broader effort to preserve Xbox games from the past and bring them to PC over time. And we are not just enabling you to play them on PC, we're also adding new features to make your gaming experience better than ever. So, yep. Meanwhile, Xbox has halted some of the negative momentum with their announcement of bringing old Xbox games to PC. This is interesting in several ways. First, it supports a theory of Helix being more PC-like than not to take advantage of this. Second, these are emulated games, and this limit, so it's not like they ported them. And this limited early release proves Xbox can't bring all games to PC. If they could, they would have flipped a switch and just announced they're all compatible. Microsoft does have an in-house emulator, though, clearly. Meanwhile, all 4 games seem to be easy to emulate. All are fully playable on the XEMU open source emulator, suggesting they worked with the easiest ones first. And frankly, all 4 seem a bit obscure. Not exactly blockbuster titles. It's not like one of them was Halo 2. If the emulator is available and now capable of playing most Xbox games, the only reason not to have a wider release slate is probably legal concerns, which also proves Helix will still need to actually be more PC-ified console, not a full pre-built PC. Oh, and people, I added this last minute. People have also noticed that the emulator released by Microsoft for these 4 games seems to actually be a 360-based emulator when you dig into the code, suggesting that what we've seen so far is just the tip of the iceberg as to what Microsoft is working on for Helix. So first, I guess I'll just say my take on this. I put it in the video that I put out last week. It was like a little addendum to like a Zen 6 video where I'm like, I got to talk about Xbox. I can't help myself. And that is, I think it is clear, at least I ran this past some game devs as well, and they seem to agree with me, that they want Helix to have backwards compatibility with previous Xboxes to some degree. They've been working on this for years, and this is like the alpha or pre-alpha, but they thought, Sony's got so much bad PR. Let's put out the simplest thing that we've already got done right now. They probably could have done more, but this was probably the safe thing to do quickly and get a huge PR win. And so that's what I really think this is for now. I wouldn't read into this like tomorrow, all of a sudden you can play, Fable 3 or whatever on your PC if you bought it on 360. I would not take that to mean this, but I do think that's probably what they're building towards. And for now, it's kind of just an easy PR win against Sony. Now, I said this in the video too, people might go, well, Moore's Law Zed says it's just a PR win, so you shouldn't care. No, you should care. I wish Sony would do more PR wins that makes the competition sweat. Like, a PR win is a PR win, and this should make Sony even more worried that they're losing too much goodwill with their fans before next gen. And again, these breadcrumbs just dropped. This is basically nothing. Like, what is it? One of them is like Conquer. Who gives a shit? Like, but this little gesture of goodwill Xbox just did. If you're someone, and a third of PlayStation gamers, all these people, and half of Xbox gamers also own a PlayStation. If you're a person on a Series X or a PS5, there's a decent chance you have both. And you look at this and you go, I'm probably starting to plan to get Helix, because it seems like over time they're going to make all the games I already bought still playable, and I don't trust Sony, and I hope that Microsoft keeps hammering this, because this is the type of shit that makes your competition compete. But yeah, what do you think, Dan?
Well, yeah, I think Xbox is clearly employing a smarter strategy than Sony is right now for the lead up to their next gen, where at least it seems like maybe they'll give they're trying to give a little bit of sugar to help the medicine go down, because I'm sure we're going to get that announcement in the future that the Project Helix is also going to be digital forward or discless, probably.
Or all digital, yeah.
Yeah, but if you give people enough treats to help them swallow that pill, I think people might be more accepting of it. I think this, if they came off of this and announced it like a week from now, it would be met with pretty bad PR. But this, it just makes Sony look way worse, where like Sony is like, screw the past if you bought games on a specific format, and Microsoft is at least playing into that hand a little bit by bringing back some retro games that I don't know if anybody cares about. Conker's Live and Reloaded.
Again, it's probably the ones they still have the licenses to everything in the game too, so they can do this.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm sure the licensing agreements are a nightmare for bringing Xbox games to the current gen. Like, I know that with at least TV, like shows from like the 2000s, trying to get to like streaming is a nightmare, where I believe like Scrubs famously, depending on like what distribution of it you've gotten, has just different music in it. But yeah, I think this is a massive win. I think it's pretty nothing burger if they don't meet it with more a bigger release of backwards compatibility in the next few months. And I think they need to show that there's a bigger push for backwards compatibility before they announce any type of diskless future. And obviously, I think they need to announce some way of digitizing your library too.
Yeah, and I'm just looking over some of the conversations I had this past week with some game dev contacts, and I don't know, some of them seem to think that this is going to start to become mandatory, where they're going to be like, and again, don't take this as confirmation, anyone listening to this, but it sounds like what Microsoft might do is go, we're going to do our best to go back through the game catalog, our game library, and like reach out to devs and be like, hey, can you sign this thing that says we can make this run on PC? In all future games, there might be a clause to launch on Series X and Series S that says this is okay to run on PC in these circumstances. It seems like this is a thing. Like they're like they probably wish they would have thought about this sooner, but they're gonna put in the effort to try to over time make your library on Xbox transition to PC and onto Helix, so you don't feel like you're losing something. And I don't know. I just hope Sony's put it in half of the thought Xbox is. I can't believe I'm saying that. A year ago, wow, how the turntables. But yeah, another Chris writes in. So fast forward, the PS6 and Helix come out, let's say, and they're insanely more powerful than the Steam machine. They get path tracing working at 120 frames per second. All of our dreams come true. Then a PS6 owner talks to a Steam machine owner about a game. They don't mention what they played on. They have the same experience. They get excited about the things they did. Could the next gen of consoles be overhyped? They won't be the same experience.
No.
Like, I'm sorry. Like, already there's like a 1080p 30 target for a Steam machine. Like, guys, no, it won't be. There are going to be at launch games that really don't run on Steam Machine, that run on PS6 and Helix. Or at least if they do, it's going to feel like you're on a Steam Deck. The difference in performance, it's weaker than the PS5, and the PS6 is up to 12 times the ray tracing, at least 6 times. There will be entire games that just don't boot on Steam Machine and without running at a crawl.
Yeah.
The difference this is a bigger difference in performance than a normal gen. This is I guess this is like Xbox One to PS5 Pro will be the difference or something. Like it's bad.
Well, it's almost like we're comparing probably mid-range next generation.
Next gen.
Mid-range next gen hardware compared to 2-year-old low-end hardware. Like it's going to be
at the time
pretty
will
big
be
goal.
5-year-old low-end laptop hardware.
Yes.
Like
it's going to be a big gulf in performance, and I think something like a 7600 once we're into the years 27, 28, 29 is going to be getting a little long in the tooth for what it's able to run. I mean, like the 5700,
which is 20% faster than the Steam Machine, remember. The 7600.
Like the 5700 XT. I think we talked about this maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. There are games that don't support it natively anymore. Like this, it's going to be a problem for the Steam Machine.
Yeah, it's substantially weaker. I mean, the CPU alone, you're talking about 6 Zen 4 cores, and most of them, 4 of them are like capped at like 3 gigahertz or something. Like there's Zen 4C cores versus Zen 6C, which we know Zen 6C clocks about as fast as like Zen, the faster Zen 4 cores probably. Like you're talking like 10 Zen 6 versus 6 Zen 4. It's not even. There's going to be games that are just capped in performance CPU wise. Yeah. If it's not RAM rise, if it's not, it can't even run the game with ray tracing. If it's not, it literally is missing the AI hardware to even run the game. Like no, I don't. Will there be some cross-gen games, like, I don't know, Battlefield 7 and someone's playing on Steam Machine at 720p 60 and then they're playing on PS6 and 4K 120 and the experience is kind of the same, I guess. But I think at launch, there will be games that you won't want to even try on the Steam Machines. I don't think it'll be the same experience at all.
But will the PS6 be 3.85 liters, Tom?
I don't know if it will get to the value of the $4,000 Strix Halo Mini PC that is the same better dollar per liter value than the Steam Machine. Rune Knight writes in, let's say Valve makes a Steam Deck 2 that is actually twice as strong as the PS5 Pro. Wouldn't it be better to let them make... Okay, so look, man, I looked it up. I'd say the PS5 Pro is like 9070 GRE, RTX 4070 Super, somewhere around there. You're saying the Steam Deck 2 is about the performance, is stronger than like a 4090? No. I think sometimes people don't get like how powerful console hardware is. Like the PS5 Pro has 60 RDNA, if you will, 3.75, 3.9 compute units. The Steam Deck 2 will not be that fast. Like, not in raw compute, like raster or something. Like, but his question was, if they had something that strong, shouldn't they just also launch a Steam Machine hockey puck to support one set of hardware? And the answer is, I guess if that's what it was, but that's not how fast it will be. I mean, I would suspect the Steam Machine will use Steam Deck 2 will use some version of like Strix Halo Mini, which is 24.
Oh yeah, it might be Strix Halo
units, Strix Halo Mini, or also known as not Strix Halo Mini, Medusa Halo Mini, which some people have called Medusa Point Premium. Who knows what? I think there's a few code names. So depending on how you think about it, like it's either the premium version of Medusa Point or the budget version of Medusa Halo. Even that is just 24 compute units, which even with RDNA 5's IPC increase, I mean, you're still looking at something probably half the performance of the PS5 Pro. So no, and that's if they go with that, which they might go with something cheaper if I had to guess, actually.
Well, that's why I kind of agreed with you. Not Strix Halo, I guess. I was more thinking like Valve clearly goes shopping around the bargain bin for the parts that they can find to put out their new hardware. Like maybe this is still using like Strix or Gorgon Point or something a couple years from now, depending on when it comes out. Because if they get a good deal on that, I don't think it's even a guarantee that they would use Medusa.
I believe on the last episode, which had NX Gamer, we both agreed that what they have coming is probably launching in like 2029. So I would guess it's RDNA 6.
Sure.
You
Yeah,
know,
that's fair.
something like that. But again, is that RDNA 6 with 32 compute units? Oh, no, not necessarily. It could just be 16,
12,
and then like 6 Zen 7C cores, like something that's targeting 10 watts. It's not going to be as powerful as the PS5 Pro, at least not in raw performance across the board. AI Amiable Chief writes in and says, does it make any sense whatsoever for Valve to do anything but a single production run of the Steam machine? Well, it seems like they're going to keep making it, but it's just they're making it very low volume. I mean, this is also in the wrap up. I guess I'll bring it up now. But I think like their launch may have been like less than 50,000 units, or like they think like they're making like 10,000 a month. Like this is negligible production compared to a PlayStation or Xbox. So from that perspective, if they can keep it sold out, even if it's negligible to the market, I guess they might as well make 10,000 a month. I don't know. If it keeps selling, why not?
Yeah,
you know. But
the answer, I guess, is if they're buying it at the current volume they're producing it at, then yeah, it makes sense for Valve to make it if they're making money on it, even if it's kind of dumb.
But that doesn't mean it's really doing anything for the market. All right, let us now move away from the console news to the more PC hardware-centric news with story number 3. This piece of content is sponsored by the Minis Forum G1 Pro Mini PC. Although in this case, like many of Minis Forum products, Mini PC is a misleading term to use here. Actually, especially misleading, because this doesn't just pack a dedicated GPU, this packs a dedicated low-profile desktop RTX 5060. Now that means that even though it should probably require some modding to put another low-profile GPU in it in the future, it's still plausible, making this one of the most upgradable mini PCs I've ever seen. It also comes with an H945HX Zen 4 16-core processor, so you get desktop-class CPU performance, the ability to have 2 NVMe SSDs, and expandability to up to 96 gigabytes of RAM, and it fits all of this into a very elegant 3.8-liter package. And I must say, by the way, despite its size, I was impressed. Even just pushing it into beast mode in terms of cooling and power supply, the thing never got loud at all. It was very quiet, very pleasant to be around while benchmarking. And when I benchmarked it, I found that, yeah, look, it's right at the heels of one of the fastest Strix Halo mini PCs I've tested, but that costs a lot more. And once you go into 1080p, which is probably where you're going to game with a 5060 anyways, this thing actually manages to not only beat Strix Halo in 1080p a bit, but it also manages to beat a laptop 5070, suggesting that if you overclock this thing and really supply it, yeah, it's a low profile GPU, but it's just as fast as any normal desktop GPU, and you are really getting, well, better than laptop 5070 performance in a really convincing package for a reasonable price. So I have to say, this one impressed me more than average, and I genuinely really recommend this product for those that just want a starter desktop, and one where actually you can upgrade the GPU conceivably in the future. So if you're interested in it, please check it out through the link in the description, and remember, if you buy it, to use offer code BROKENSILICON to save, not just in the United States, but in many different regions where this offer code works. A lot of my fans are not in the United States. Don't worry, I've got you covered as well. So please support Moore's Law is Dead by checking out the Minis Forum G1 Pro today. Nvidia shows DLSS 5 progress and technical details at SIGGRAPH 2026. Quoting first from Tech Power Up before the write-up. Nvidia has once again showcased its DLSS 5 neural rendering at the SIGGRAPH 2026 event, currently taking place in Los Angeles. Each individual object seen in game setting can be customized according to the developer's vision. This is one of the challenges Nvidia faced with DLSS 5 is maintaining visual identity, object semantics, and character poses, along with output lighting semantics, motion, and art direction is crucial. Within these strict parameters, DLSS 5 applies material photorealism to enhance visual appeal. As the launch is expected this fall, oh boy, we'll see. The company will provide general system requirements and further details, but the improvements compared to the original demo at least seem promising for now. So, are the improvements promising? Well, it does seem like Nvidia toned down their model, which was partly inevitable for it to fit on a single GPU, but the developer control really does still seem to be an issue, as games adding DLSS 5 properly would need every asset retouched to look right. So we will probably get games where DLSS 5 actually does fit the artistic intent in several years, since the process is only really viable on a game currently at the very early stages, right? You'd have to train it with the game being made to really have the intent. Things get even worse for major studios, though, which have shared asset libraries. Nvidia also claimed DLSS 5 model will be fast enough to allow games to hit 60 frames. Okay, but using what GPU? What techniques? Like what settings to get there? Is it a 5090 at 30 frames going to 60 with frame gen? The technology is automatically unusable until years in the future if that's the case. Finally, the examples shown are still quite unreliable. All of the before pictures are still uniformly darker, which can be likely due to absence of other DLSS technologies, namely ray reconstruction, fewer bounces, which would equal less light and complex geometry. That automatically makes the on and off comparison still poor and misleading. So, damn, I thought we had to add this with all the hubbub we had with our DLSS 5 videos that we put out months ago now. But what do you think about NVIDIA's dipping their toe in the water to try to convince us once again that DLSS 5 is going to be great?
I mean, I'm glad to hear that they're at least paying lip service to the idea that their DLSS 5 model is supposed to save artistic intent, but I'm still not really convinced by what they showed. Like you said, just showing what they showed. I agree. The graphics, the starkest contrast that you see is that, like you said, the images are brighter across the board. I mean, I don't want to be overly critical and say, like, in this screenshot I'm looking at, the whatever they called him, a merchant in their press conference, is still looks, I don't know, maybe kind of a yassified version of him a little bit. But I also do want, like, unless I'm wrong about this, I'm a little skeptical of them showing off their new technology at, like, look, we're preserving artistic intent by showing a tech demo that they've pre-cooked and shown us. Like, I want to have 3 or 4 developers come out and show off their game and say, like, this is what the game looks like now. Not like, look, we preserved artistic intent in this manufactured test environment that's meant to look like it's preserving artistic intent. Like, there's very little artistic intent to most tech demos. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I want to see.
They look like a generic Unreal Engine 5 demo.
Exactly. Like, I want to see what games did they show off originally with DLSS 5? Like, Requiem, or Resident Evil Requiem, Assassin's Creed Shadows. I want to see them show off how have we changed it since we first
show me what's your name from Resident Evil 9 again.
Exactly.
Grace, show me Grace again. Are you afraid to show her? Does it still look just as stupid?
Yeah, like, why are you showing me a generic tech demo, Unreal 5 tech demo, rather than something with actual artistic intent? Like, it would be like, I don't know, saying like, oh, look at our new filter, preserves artistic intent, and what you show me is a Pepsi commercial or something. Like, I just don't think there's that much artistic intent to most of those.
Yeah, like, an example I will give, right? And I was recently on the Nerd Nest podcast, and I think at least a couple of the people there, I think the host, was a little shocked at how aggressive I was about how unimpressed with DLSS 5. And the point I made back then that I'm going to doubly make now, today, is no, I'm not impressed because I don't think it looks better. I just think you made it look different, and it took 2 5090s to do it. And let me make it like, so Gerard, the file names are DLSS new showing 6 and 7. If we could show the roses on screen, Gerard, when I'm talking here, I don't think it looks better. It just looks like different lighting. And if you're telling me a 5090, I don't even care what it is. if something, any modern card, even the 5050 is like way faster than the Steam machine in PS5. Like even if a 5050 is doing this and hitting 60, I am not impressed because it just looks like different lighting. And so I just crushed my frame rate to get different lighting. It just looks different. It doesn't look better. And you're high if you think, or you're a raging Nvidia fanboy if you think it looks better. It doesn't look better. It's just different lighting.
I will say this.
And this is what they chose to show.
I will say this to provide the slightest bit of totally not sarcastic pushback, Tom. In the image where they're showing like there's a bunch of flowers and vases and a watermelon at the bottom of the screen.
Yes, that one.
I think the watermelon does look better with DLSS 5.
It
looks
like
a little higher res to me, Tom.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, it's a little less blurry, I guess. But it's like, I don't know what settings you're on. I don't know. So did it need a 5090 to make the watermelon? If I'm playing a Battlefield game, I don't care that the watermelon in Bazaar Market just slightly looks better while I'm getting fired at by a machine gun and like laying prone. Like this is nonsense tech. It is truly nonsense. And what makes me so aggressive again is it costs something to do this. If they said this was a free filter you can turn on, cool. Maybe it'll look 10% better and it's free. Honestly, another great selling feature for Nvidia over AMD. But that's not what this is. They're saying this takes like immense horsepower to have to squint to see the difference. And I'd argue just looks different. That is very, 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 very unimpressive. And again, this is what they chose to show you. This wasn't some hands-off hardware in box, downloaded it, is trying it out, and GTA 6 and was like, ooh, our big analysis video, like Tim talks for 40 minutes. This is what they chose to show you. And we can't tell the difference between which one's better half the time. That's damning.
Well, and I think the main takeaway from all of that, though, Tom, is that you are biased against watermelon graphics. So you're probably, I'm just going to say it. I think you're a lemon shill, Tom.
No, I do like lemons a lot. I make a lot of whiskey sours, and so I actually am a pretty big lemon boy. I will admit that today.
Well, thank you for admitting to your biases, Tom.
But so I don't know if there's much else to say about this. I didn't look at this that closely until we came to record this. Having looked at it now again, I'm honestly shocked at how much I still hate it. I thought I'd go, oh, they made some improvement. This sucks.
Well, yeah. My problem was like I listened to, for the most part, and watched parts of like the Nvidia press conference today because I want to have I want to try to have a positive takeaway from this.
I want things to be good.
But my problem is there's really nothing they showed or demonstrated that can give me a positive takeaway because they're not actually making a comparison. You know what I mean? Like, they're not showing how they've improved based on what they've shown in the past. They're just showing a different demo with different graphics. That's generic. It's just some random tech demo that they're showing off rather than something with actual creative intent behind it. And until you do that, I think it's an apples to oranges comparison. Like, you're just showing me, like, look at this random guy that's not in any video game looks brighter with DLSS 5.
Yes, I guess the merchant.
Yes.
I would say, I guess he looks a little better, but it's like, well, yeah, but like, what settings were used? Like the Grace comparison they did was like Nintendo Switch handheld mode versus maxed out settings. Like, of course it looks better. Give me the best version you could get if we cranked up the settings higher than even the game lets you do to like cutscene level. And then let's compare that and tell you, because you're using 25090. So presumably if you did that, you could have the horsepower to do that. And that's a fair comparison. But like you said, we don't know. That's not what they did. So,
yeah.
All right. Let us now move on to, I guess, the first positive story, maybe the only positive story of today's episode, with story number 4. AMD Zen 6 revealed, AM5 Ryzen and PS6 CPU performance de facto confirmed. Quoting first from Tom's Hardware before moving on to a rather lengthy write-up. AMD is finally providing some firm details on its first Zen 6 CPUs today, which it has been teasing for over a year. The EPYC 9996 is a 256-core, 512-thread chip packing AMD's new Zen 6 architecture, and it's the first to launch in what AMD describes as a broad portfolio for Venice. In addition to claiming significant performance advantages over the impending Nvidia Vera and Intel's Xeon 6, I don't remember what it was, but I think they may have claimed like 3 or 4 times the performance or something silly over Intel. AMD says it will continue to build out the Venice range with bespoke designs over the next year. When scaling up to 256 cores, AMD uses its Zen 6C dense design. With a standard Zen 6 design, AMD says Venice scales up to 128 cores and 256 threads, while high-frequency variations top out in 96 cores. Interesting. Venice X is expected in the second half of 2027. Yep. So time to get to the biggest story of this week. AMD launching Zen 6 based on this time in the EPYC Venice variants. In fact, the standard version has compute chiplets we expect to see with the Ryzen lineup later this year, or at least early next year. It's difficult to estimate the performance of PC parts based on the server chips, but if the numbers for Venice are correct, it does bring significant improvements and seems to back up the claims this channel has made about, I don't know, right, like a 30% or more performance increase per core. But again, it is difficult to use server benchmarks to estimate gaming performance, especially when Venice X tops out at 5.15 gigahertz boost, while the Ryzen parts are planned to go much higher, possibly with core chiplets further optimized for speed and using a superior node. Still, many of our leaks have been proven right today. The standard CCD is indeed 12 cores like we leaked years ago, and AMD has moved on to advanced packaging with bridge dice, which was another one of our most crucial details that we leaked. Meanwhile, they also launched the Helios AI rack. AMD is thus catching up to Nvidia, building a rack that operates as a single massive computer. AMD is leveraging not just EPYC and Radeon Instinct here, but also DPU and NIC chips from their Pensando acquisition. They are really going head-to-head against Nvidia here. This really cannot be underemphasized, as Nvidia is reportedly having issues with their next generation. In fact, I do remember watching this and Lisa Su directly saying, we now have the highest performing AI parts. Lisa usually does not say that unless she thinks she does have the highest performing parts. A particularly intriguing part also was when Jack Hume, who is now the head of Radeon, just with now a more vague title, talked about robotics. We have long noted that Jensen Huang is preparing to move from AI bubble to robotics bubble. What we did not focus on much is that AMD is arguably better positioned in robotics thanks to its Xilinx and FPGAs that excel at processing of complex signals, so NVIDIA can only offer off-the-shelf parts or processing sensor data on a comparatively laggy CPU or GPU. Oh, and one more thing. AMD's Venice X, this is the V-cache model of EPYC, is launching in the second half of 2027, and this is built on the same Zen 6 microarchitecture as Venice XP7, which AMD says is now in production. But it comes with smaller core counts and leverages AMD's 3D V-cache to stack an unbelievable 1,152 megabytes of L3 cache on a chip. By the way, I believe I leaked that number years ago as well. But here's the interesting thing. If Venice X is second half of 2027, they almost always launch the consumer version of this before that, meaning that the consumer version of Zen 6X 3D is likely launching in the first half of 2027, along with the non-X3D variants. All right, Dan, a lot there. What'd you think?
I mean, based on just the numbers they put out, the most I feel like I can say is like, yeah, it looks like we're going to be seeing a pretty big increase in, or they announce a pretty big increase in core clocks. So obviously that should come down to the consumer
and have the same
products
power as well.
Yeah. And also, I think based on what I saw from that press conference and from the announcement of it, they seem very confident in Venice X, or not Venice X, Venice in general. I feel like Lisa Su is beginning to channel some Jensen Huang energy there. And
it feels very Zen 2-like to me, like where Lisa just knew they had a win.
Yeah, and I don't know, like, if that just speaks to Zen 6 in general or if it speaks to what they're putting out right now with Venice, but yeah, clearly they are reading some type of tea leaves that these are going to be very important server or HPC parts.
Yeah, and I had someone in the Moore's Law is Dead Discord comment after I put that video out that, like, let me see if I can find it here. Right. Like AMD is tooting a 1.8x increase in performance with Zen 6 over Zen 5. And if you think about what that means, yeah, that's like basically a doubling of performance, which means that in the right circumstances could maybe get close to cutting power in half for the same performance. And it's like when you add that up with Zen 6 and then what Zen 5 brought over Zen 4 in efficiency, and Zen 4 brought massively better efficiency than Zen 3, and Zen 3 was a lot more efficient than Zen 2. And people go, well, how are they going to bring 7 nanometer PS5 performance to roughly work in a handheld? This is how. It is a brand new architecture. Zen 2 to Zen 3, Zen 3 to Zen 4, Zen 4 to Zen 5, Zen 5 to Zen 6. And Zen 6 is the biggest uplift probably since Zen 2, if not since Zen 1. I don't know. And that is how you go from like 200 to, 150 to 100 to, that's how you scale all the way down to lower wattage. And I think this proves that they can do it. I think this is, look, it's very exciting. I don't know what else there's to say. It's one of those examples where like, well, we basically told you guys this a year or two ago, and it's just fun to kind of see it come to fruition. But here it is. They like the numbers they're claiming over Intel are hilarious. And this feels very Zen 2 like to me. Yeah.
And I guess beyond that, just based on the numbers they're touting, we've discussed the 12 core CCDs a bunch, but I think the 8 core variants that they put out are still going to be massively sought after if these numbers translate to consumer parts.
Techno writes in and says, over the last decade with Zen, AMD has, in my opinion, copied the TikTok cycle that Intel used to use. We had large architectural redesigns, but not always the largest performance improvements. This was Zen 1. Zen 1 was huge. Zen 3 and Zen 5, followed by large optimization improvements, die shrinks and improved clocks like Zen 2 and 4. But it seems that Zen 6 and 7 is kind of somewhere in between the two of those, right? With them both seeming like a major architectural revolution, but also with die shrinks, optimizations, and improved clock speed. Is AMD done with their usual TikTok cadence, and will we continue to see this with Zen 8 and onwards? Yeah, I can't say really much about Zen 8 and 9, so I'm just going to sidestep that. But what I will say is none of these have been exactly the same, and don't forget that AMD's TikTok was very different than Intel's. I mean, I think Ivy Bridge was very laudable, but Ivy Bridge added like a way better like doubled iGPU over Sandy Bridge, but then brought like 5% more CPU at like a third less 40% less power. So it's like a 50% efficiency increase. But that's like, that's why it's like a talk. It barely increased performance. And then you got Broadwell, which if it had a good node or something that was working, that came after. And then you had Haswell, which brought a sizable 10 to 20% performance increase, usually 10, depending on what you wanted, but not much of an efficiency increase. And then they shrunk that, and Broadwell was basically Haswell performance at, half the power. This is not really how AMD's done things. Like Zen 3 is like a lot faster than Zen 2, and Zen 4 was a lot faster than Zen 3. Zen 4 was the biggest uplift since Zen 2. It was bigger than Zen 3's, guys. So yes, they kind of go back and forth, but it's a much larger than what Intel used to do. And don't think of it as TikTok. Just try to make the right comparison. The right comparison really is that Zen 6 is Zen 2. Fundamentally, Zen 2 was the same freaking architecture as Zen 1 and Zen Plus. It was the same one, but a much better node and a new layout that reduced latency and increased core counts. That's Zen 6. It's a new layout with a much better version of Zen 5. And that's all it is. But you don't need a new architecture to sometimes get massive performance increases, right? And if they can just go to a really good node, clock Zen 5 to 7 gigahertz or whatever it is, right? 6.7, whatever it ends up being, and then massively reduce the latency because now they use bridge dies, then that's a bigger increase than you got with Zen 5, even if Zen 5 actually probably had just as much work put into it.
And I don't know, call me crazy. Just thinking about it now, was this whole TikTok thing that they put out, not saying that there was no truth to it, but was this just a kind of marketing strategy to sell you that 2-year platform cycles is how things should be?
Yeah, just like Moore's law. It's not a law. It's an observation that they then acted like was a law. Like TikTok lasted like one talk. Like like Sandy Bridge, Ivy Bridge, Haswell, Broadwell, Skylake, 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 Skylake. Like it repeated itself once and barely. Broadwell almost didn't come out. Like, so this was Intel covering their ass for them taking forever to release new things.
Yeah.
Like, let's just call a spade here. Yeah. And so, and then the final thing I'll add about this is don't forget that Zen 5 basically reused literally on desktop, but basically reused the memory controllers for the most part that Zen 4 had. And there was a new Zen 5 memory controller, I think, but I think I was told like it just didn't work and they had to like delay it. And that's why Zen 6 is going to kind of feel as big as Zen 7, even though it wasn't intended to be originally, is because why Zen 5 fell a little flat is they reused the Zen 4 one. The Zen 5 one basically got canceled on desktop at least. And they then had to delay a new memory controller as part of the Zen 6 family. And so Zen 6 is kind of like a full new arc in a way, is what it's going to feel like, because there were parts of 5 that were canceled that had to be saved for upgrading with Zen 6. But that's why Zen 6 and Zen 7 will probably feel equal in terms of how big they are, is because Zen 5 fell a little short and Zen 6 is making up for lost time. Mm-hmm. All right. Let us now move on to story number 5. This piece of content is brought to you by the Arzopa Z3 FC portable 1440p 180 hertz monitor. This is not the typical portable monitor, at least not in my experience. There's tons of them out there. You know, you can get them. Some are nicer or less nice, more expensive or whatever, but almost all of them lack a stand. And this one has a built-in kickstand that actually feels incredibly high quality. I know it sounds silly, but in this saturated market, I actually think this really makes it stand out. Besides that, you know, it has an IPS display. It has up to 180 hertz, FreeSync. I tried it. It works great. I mean, I had no problem hooking up my Strix Halo Mini PC and just gaming in Battlefield 6 online. And the size is actually a really nice one. You know, it's just big enough where it kind of feels like you have a decent monitor as long as it's close to you. And so I think it's perfect for, you know, again, portable mini PCs, laptops, the second display on the go, or of course, game consoles. So if you're interested in this product, check it out through the links in the description. Doing so helps the channel a ton and also will get you the best price available at the moment on the Arzopa Z3 FC portable monitor with kickstand. Has Intel delayed Big Nova Lake? Also, new layoffs at Intel. Quoting first from the Oregon Live and then Overclock 3D. First, Intel told employees in its data center group that it plans a fresh round of job cuts. They follow a major downsizing at the chipmaker during 2024 and 2025. It's not clear how many jobs Intel plans to eliminate with these latest cuts, but Intel said they won't affect its product commitments or roadmaps. Now, from Overclock 3D, Intel Core Ultra Series 4 CPU release schedule has leaked, confirming that Intel's next generation Nova Lake CPUs could launch as early as January 2027. However, Intel's launch plans are staggered, with CPU launches throughout the year, with the last being between May and September of 2027. Now, look, that's a huge gulf, May to September, by the way, everybody. And basically the gist was that the 8+16 model, what I believe will be the i7 tier, is going to come out first with one of the chiplets, and then the dual one, the 52-core Mega one, might not come out until after that. So I reached out to some of my Intel sources, and one of them got back to me. Again, one of my best ones, you know, won't say which leaks they were attached to, but you've seen the roadmaps I put out. This person knows what they're talking about. Let me quote them. The person said, "What I can confirm on my end, an Intel engineer, is that we want the 8+16 i7 models to at least paper launch by the end of the year. But in reality, we expect the launch to be more likely in Q1 2027. Then the 52-core models should launch about a quarter after that. So I would expect Q2 at the latest for the top i9. And I would be shocked if they were delayed to the end of Q3 2027. And so there you go. I wanted to throw this out there. Is the 52-core model coming out after the 24-core, or I guess it'd be 28? Probably, but think it's more like January and then like March or maybe April and May. I'm not. People at Intel are like, no, this thing's not launching in the second half of next year. And so if it is, something fundamental has gone wrong, and this isn't something most people at Intel expect right now. So we'll see what that really leads to. I just thought I had to throw in my own reporting on this. But yeah, so here we go. Well, AMD is already launching products using Silicon for Ryzen 10,000. Intel is reportedly dealing with yet another delay. We also reached out to our contacts who confirmed some delays seem to have popped up, although they don't go as far as to confirm the entire rumor that's being circulated right now. But anyways, this delay is weird. Nova Lake 28 core is still scheduled for Q1 with a staggered release ending with the full dual die in Q2 or maybe 3. This implies maybe a bring up issue. And maybe more focus on some SKUs, make them ready before the others, try and move on to next chips, instead of working on most of the roadmap in parallel. Yeah, or like maybe they're going step by step and one of them's had a bigger issue. Now, this could be due to difficulties with Silicon. Remember, N1X was in this stage for about a year, or it could be Intel's capacity and bring up. But if Intel plans to cut employees in data center, the most important segment, perhaps they also plan to move people from client to DC to compensate, maybe leaving them for your resources, and maybe that's what's going on here. So yeah, I don't know, but I thought this was a very important story to touch on. Number one, because I had a source that confirmed that it seems like the top tier model might not launch until Zen 6 X3D. And I think this is a fundamental issue for Intel here. Like, it's so funny. We started like a year ago thinking, oh, you know, it seems like Zen 6 and Nova Lake are going to launch at the same time. And then it seems like, because AMD's using N2X, maybe they're going to delay Zen 6. Maybe Zen 6 will actually come out after Nova Lake. Maybe Intel will get a much needed victory here where they get the strongest product launching first instead of AMD, who always seems to launch their product like right? Didn't Zen 4 always like a month before Intel launches theirs, whether it's Arrow Lake. Like maybe Intel finally is going to launch a product early and one that's really competitive. From what we're seeing here, it kind of seems like AMD is going to have their 24 core 48 thread when Intel launches their 24 core 24 thread, because there's no hyper threading. And then by the time Intel gets their 52 core i9 tier out, AMD might have the 24 core X3D. And if these rumors end up being true, I don't know. It kind of seems like AMD just has another mega win on their hands here in the first half of next year. And I don't know. I don't think Intel can take another loss like this.
Yeah, I mean, I do think the 28 core, at least as far as from the perspective of gaming hardware goes, that's the one that's going to be the most interesting for gamers potentially.
Right.
Because I do question.
Most people don't need 52 cores.
I do question, what the 52 core will be useful for. Like, not saying it has no uses, but like, what it enables. Like, will it be meaningfully any better at gaming than their i7s, or will this mostly just be like a quasi HEDT thing, or will it just be good for productivity? Because in that reality, I think we see the 28 core, and that's basically what you're going to get as far as it goes for gaming. And whenever Zen 6 comes out with whatever comparisons they make, I don't think the 52 core will really meaningfully move the needle that much wherever Zen 6 ends up performing against it. And then Zen 6 will probably have another bonus against that when the X3D comes out later, or hopefully at the same time for once. But I do think as far as gaming hardware goes, if they can still get the 28 core out in Q1, I think we're seeing what Nova Lake will give us for gaming hardware, I suppose. I mean, it's not a good look that they can't get their entire lineup out on time, but I still think the 28 core could potentially be a good gaming chip, or will be a good gaming chip, and I don't think whatever they comes out after will really be that much better for it.
Yeah. I guess I don't know really what else to say about this. I just, especially if AMD was able to paper launch consumer Zen 6 at the end of this year, or have it truly ready January, February, and Intel slips. I don't know. I mean, we'll see, but I understand this i7 tier would include the big last level cache variants most likely, and that should be the best foot forward for gaming. But I think in multi-threading, 24 core Zen 6 could just full stop, the multi-threading of 24, or I guess you might say 28 core Nova Lake by at least 50%. And if you have that happen, where AMD potentially, even without Vcache, again, guys, if it gets even 6.7 gigahertz, I don't think they need Vcache to keep that gaming lead. If AMD wins gaming by like 20% and multi-threading by 50%, then Intel's like, well, just get ready. We're going to have more multi-threading soon. And then AMD's like, yeah, well, by the time that launches, get ready for our like 200, whatever it is, like 300 megabyte Vcache models out. And Intel needs a new platform. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I could see in the best version of this for AMD. AMD comes out with Zen 6 non-X3D, already beats their i7, and then a few months later, they're weirdly paired together again with the X3D and 52 core launch. And what you end up getting is AMD has the new gaming CPU king with 10800 X3D or whatever the hell they call it. And Intel puts out a 52 core that is worse at gaming performance and, I don't know, twice as expensive as the X3D.
And maybe not wins multi-threading by 10, 20%, but it's like, okay.
Yeah.
We'll see. Hopefully not. And again, let's be clear. We're just reporting the news. I want Zen 6 and Nova Lake 52 core and the Zen 6 with Vcache to both launch in November this year for $400. I don't think that all of those things are going to come true, though. And this is something to watch now, though, because again, I don't like it. I don't like that when it starts to feel like Arrow Lake again, where it's just, or Raptor Lake again, where it's like, whoa, we're really excited at first. And then it's like, Zen 4 launches first. Raptor Lake apparently is a nuclear reactor, it requires a nuclear reactor to even run. Or Arrow Lake's the opposite. Arrow Lake launches really late, lower performance, no nuclear reactor required, just lots of tissue for your tiers required and how it performs.
Oh, tier cooled CPU though. That's a new.
I mean, Intel might want to capitalize on that. Looking at the recent launches, besides Panther Lake, I guess. But like, yeah, we'll see. I don't want any more delays out of Intel. That is the number one thing I watch. And if this gets delayed like a quarter or 2 quarters after when Zen 6 is out, it's like, once again, it's like, this is what I'm talking about. You have to be able to execute. Like, you're going to get wins every now and then, but if you can't execute, who cares if you have a good architecture?
Yeah. And I think that's an important thing to add to like what I said. I was more talking just about what I think about with the hardware itself. Obviously, these types of delays don't speak well, and the layoffs, which we didn't really touch on at all, other than your summary of it. Don't speak well to how organized or how well Intel is at executing consistently on anything.
All right. Let us now move on to the final story with story number 6. Intel confirms Moore's Law's Dead's leak that hyperthreading is coming back, baby. Quoting Lip Bhutan, CEO of Intel, we have Clearwater Forest, Diamond Rapids, and also Coral Rapids coming with SMT involved. I think we will continue working on improving the competitiveness against our competitor. I think clearly it's very important to drive the improvement in the single thread and also multi-threading. Multi-threading will be coming back with Coral Rapids. I assume we meant hyperthreading. Remember, when Intel released Lunar Lake and explained how hyperthreading is useless in the age of the E-core, how smart they are by saving area, by cutting it out of Lion Cove cores. Well, we remember, and we have also leaked a couple times now that SMT is coming back because that's bullshit. This whole single-threaded episode is particularly bizarre, really, when you realize that the server version of Lion Cove did have SMT and that it is upcoming Diamond Rapids that will lack it. In short, we have to wonder if there was any strategy at all going on here. Anyways, not only does this shift confirm our leaks about SMT, but it also confirms that E-cores are going away. For those who missed it, I cannot recommend enough that you guys search for my Thunderhawk leak. This was a video that went through the fact that Intel will soon be optimizing for area with a version of their cores, much like AMD's C cores, and will no longer separate their cores into separate microarchitectures, because without those truly different E-cores, Intel will have to find thread density somewhere, and SMT is a way to bring that back and increase multi-threading performance with minor area cost compared to the design cost of 2 parallel core architectures. So yeah, I mean, look, I'd say this de facto confirms the Thunderhawk leak I put out months ago. And I think it's It's just exciting to see hyper-threadiness coming back to Intel. For the most part, I agree it hasn't been a huge issue. Like, because I have some Intel products that I've messed around with, and it's like, yeah, okay, well, this one doesn't have hyper-threading. And then it's like, right, but it has 16 cores, like 2 low power, 4, like once you add it all up, like I tested a Panther Lake system recently. It's like, yeah, the thread, it has enough threads, but it has enough. It still is at a pretty big disadvantage to AMD, who's selling like a cheaper chip that manages the same multi-threading because it has SMT.
Yeah, I mean, Intel has massively pushed core counts over time, and I'm so like maybe they're making up for that deficiency of losing hyperthreading because of that, and I'll be very curious to see like how much more performance that enables once hyperthreading comes back the next year or the next generation, or yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, well. We are briskly running through this episode. Let me now then move on to the final wrap up. These are, of course, the stories that we think deserve a mention, but do not need a full 20-minute conversation each. So first of all, Intel just had earnings. I saw that they were mostly, let me see here. Yeah, okay, so that's the interesting thing. So Intel just reported its quarter two 2026 earnings. And at first it popped. They were very positive. You know, they had like record revenue of some sort, I believe here. Is a massive as I'm reading here, is a massive operational beat. Fastest revenue growth in over 15 years. That's what it was. Mm-hmm. But once you dug into the numbers, and this is why, if you look, they're down on the monthly and weekly, there's some pretty big red flags in that the foundry is still costing them a ton of money. They're laying people off. And if you look at their client growth, they tried to promote, look at clients huge for us, and it is. But if you look, client is up only because prices are up, which might be because of RAM and how expensive Panther Lake is. And it's not because they're taking market share. They're not taking market share. Intel PCs just cost more now because they're really freaking expensive to make. So it's good that they're not falling apart. But anyone who thinks Intel's, I see some people talk about Intel right now like they're entirely out of the woods. I don't think so. No. I don't think so. And the confidence I saw from Lisa Su at the Advancing AI Summit, I mean, she thinks they're going to crush everyone next year. And they might.
Yeah, I mean, AMD really does, at least just based on that conference, seems like they feel, it looks like they feel positioned to both go after Nvidia and Intel right now, which if they're actually there, wow. But
yeah. Also, I don't know how much time there really is to spend on it, but Hardware Unboxed completed the review of the 7700X 3D. And it's interesting. He said at $330, it's like, It's like, okay, the 7800X 3D is like 5% faster, 5% more. 9800X 3D is, of course, correspondingly like 20, whatever it is, 10, 20% faster for 10, 20% more. But apparently right after it came out, it was price dropped on Newegg to $280. And I have to agree, at $280 for an 8-core X3D Zen 4, yeah, it's kind of the best value CPU. In fact, let me check Micro Center here, because if I was looking for a bargain, that is probably what I would go to. But let me see. Do they have this with the free motherboard thing? I'm curious if they do. Because the thing, dang, that went up in price. I think it was for $350. They had the 7500X 3D with RAM and a motherboard. I don't see the 7700 here. Let me see. Yeah, so I guess, yeah, if you're shopping on Amazon or Newegg and you see it for that price, that's a good deal. Otherwise, there's still probably better deals to be had. And it sucks the 7500X 3D at Micro Center is now $400 with motherboard and RAM. Still probably the best deal, right? But man, when it was like $300, that was a steal.
Yeah, I just based on the way it's officially priced, yeah, there's almost nothing interesting to say about something like the 7700X 3D. But I guess if it continues to hit something like 280, then yeah, that's where something like the 7700X 3D I would like to see positioned, where it's just like a true bargain bin type offering. But in lieu of that, I guess it also does just offer another part to get in like this weird algorithm driven pricing thing that happens, where maybe for whatever reason on Amazon, the 7700X 3D will go to like $220 for an hour, and now there's just one more thing on the market that might do that.
Yeah, I remember being especially alert to this sort of thing back in the Sandy Bridge, Ivy Bridge days, like when I really got into like desktop building, and there'd be so many weird models, like the whatever 2400p i5, and you'd be like, wait, this one right now is as cheap as an i3, but it has 4 full cores. Yeah, they're only at like whatever it was back then, which was still considered okay, like 3.5 gigahertz or something.
Or those like weird Xeons that they used to have.
Which sometimes, like, there's all of these different i3s, i5s, and i7s going up and down in price, and you just look for like, oop, no one bought this one on Amazon for a month, so it's actually cheaper than an i5. Get this. I think you did that with your friend Colin, right? You got him as a Xeon 8 thread that was cheaper than the i5.
Yeah, if I'm remembering correctly, it was, I mean, lower clock than the i7, but same core count as the i7 for, I want to say like $15-20 cheaper than the i5 at the time.
Yeah. So again, I think there's a lot of, I think, no offense, but some of the more sophomoric brain dead takes when some of these products come out, including like even like the 9070 GRE, is to be like, oh, cost same, stupid. It's like it's like Hardware Unboxed said this about the 9070 GRE. He said, at 550, it doesn't look better, but we think it'll become 500. So when it's 500 in the 9070 600, then you get it. Think of these additional products, whether it's the 9070 GRE or the never-ending list of X3D variants of Zen 4 and 5. These are just other things to watch, and sometimes they will be a steal. And then that's when you get them.
Yeah, and especially for CPUs, I think there are so many CPUs on the market that are really, really closely positioned to each other in performance. And if you don't like overly commit yourself to one CPU and you just look for deals, like, yeah, maybe you're going to sacrifice a small amount of like theoretical max frame rates and gaming performance for the 7700 X3D versus the 800 X3D, but you also might save a lot of money, like if you're just on the lookout for the best price performance, like when one just drops to a weird price for some reason.
Mm-hmm. Another thing here, Carbon Cry, I think, added this. It says AMD gets in on circular financing by investing in Anthropic as Anthropic buys MI450s. Yep. This all makes so much sense. Totally not a bubble. And then also I saw Tim Sweeney sharing this on Twitter. Third-party stores are coming to Google Play. Epic Games store already hosts third-party stores. So, like, finally, a lawsuit was won where you can't stop other stores from being on your platform. You know, I talked about this with Colin Moriarty on Sacred Symbols recently. He has a concern, and I guess I don't know where I fall on this. He thinks it could be a bad thing, a concern that pretty soon, like where this is going to lead if consumers win in this pushback on Sony, is Sony has to allow Steam on PS5, which I don't know that that's what that would mean, but we'll see. And I guess I don't know what I really think about that, because on the one hand, I'm like, that's kind of seems stupid. Like, that's the whole point of a PlayStation, is the benefits you get with a closed garden. Having said that, why the hell should I really care if Sony has to put up with this? Like,
yeah, I mean, I think the negative you could see, if that's a future, it is Sony throws a temper tantrum and ends up pricing like the PS6 Pro or like the PS7 at a higher price point than they would have otherwise, because there's the anti-consumer view of those closed gardens that, you know, they're only allowing you one store, and that's especially true with the digital only future. But the, I guess, positive aspect of that is it's more streamlined, and that in theory allows them to sell it for a lower price than they would have, because they can sell the hardware at cost or a slight loss at first.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's just something we're going to have to watch here. Something's going to happen with regulation with Sony. I'm just calling it. Something's going to give here. I just don't know what it's going to be. And let me see here. I think that's basically it. You know, it was in many ways a slow news cycle, and in other ways a very not slow news cycle. Like big stories, not a lot of noise, and I don't have any final reader mails. for the end here. So, Dan, I don't know. Anything else? Anything else you want to discuss?
I guess I'll just throw this in there quickly. I forgot to send it to you today because I'm stupid. But
Okay.
I just saw while looking through the news of the week, it looks like this is a story that mostly happened and resolved itself. But Gamers Nexus put out a video about LG putting bloatware.
Yes, I forgot to add that.
That installs. I should say, I think the way it's being discussed is a little bit wrong based on my understanding, but it's like LG installs some driver app onto your computer through DisplayPort if you plugged in through DisplayPort, which I know it can transfer data.
And did you watch this video?
Yeah, and
so it can go through the DisplayPort on your graphics card.
Yep.
Wow. Okay.
And I think the big hubbub that was, I think, miscommunicated a little bit, or how it got discussed in the news, was that it auto-installed McAfee on your system, where it's more like part of the driver package was that auto-installed, like, directed you to install McAfee, which, very funny seeing a monitor like covertly install software on your computer to download to encourage you to download what I would more or less call a virus. Like, I think most antivirus software should just be considered a virus at this point. And then or Microsoft seemed to step in, and that got resolved, and they removed the McAfee ads. But I still think the looming threat of like them covertly installing software on your computer via DisplayPort is still a bit nefarious, so I think it's worth mentioning.
I do. I agree. I like, wake up, everybody. Like, this is the type of stuff where this should be a slam dunk to call your congressman or woman to like put new legislation in that you can't do this shit. Like, it's just getting out of hand, because this is just going to become a future where you like get new earbuds, and you like plug them into your PC and it tries to make you use, I don't know, the Expedia browser, all of this stuff. Like all of a sudden, why is everything DuckDuckGo? Because I plugged in new earbuds, and meanwhile you'll own nothing. And it's just, I do think 2027 is going to, and maybe even already in 26 is going to be a year or 2 years of immense backlash to this type of crap.
Yeah, and it really does bother me, particularly with stuff like this, because people spend a lot of money on their monitors, and I feel like to some extent it should be an either or type thing. Like, either I'm paying a arm and a leg to buy this expensive hardware, or software or whatever, or I get it for free or at cost and you advertise some bullshit to me. Doing both is just, I don't know, really slimy.
Yeah, because it's like, if this is, people often say that TVs are subsidized because they try to advertise to you on the TV. It's like, all right, even though those are expensive, they're pretty cheap for the quality you get.
Yeah.
Or it's like, here's this like cheap tablet, but it comes with like a version of Solitaire that they're hoping you'll play and that'll make them money. All right, well, that was like an $80 tablet. I don't know. But when it's like, here's like a $1,000 monitor, or even $500 monitor, that's a monitor. I bought it to do a thing. Like, and then like they're throwing this crap in where they're going to try to do, like, find some way to make money by putting bloatware on your PC. It's just so effed up. And frankly, it's very anti-competitive, because to the companies that don't do that, they're now at a disadvantage, because LG's like, well, we're going to sell our monitor at a loss because we're like, mining on your PC while you're asleep. Like, I mean, that's not what they're doing, but like, kind of like, it's like,
what's
that's
to
not
stop
fair.
them at a certain point?
Exactly. If we don't stop the line here, they will do that. Like, why not?
Yeah.
So, no, that was a very notable thing to add. But on that note, I think we will end this rather not girthy for once, rather normal sized for what we used to do. Episode.
Still an hour 30. I guess if we're looking
commendable.
Thank you. If we're looking at the
if not girthy, probably above the average size.
Yes. Very important that we note it like that. This is
Yes.
hour and a half is longer than the average size podcast. So
Yes. And that makes us not feel insecure that we can say that.
thank you.
All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Remember to like, to share, to comment, to hype the video, and also to subscribe to Moore's Law is Dead on YouTube. Subscribing does help. And also tell your friends about us, tell your family about us, like print off a link and a QR code to the YouTube channel, just staple it to telephone poles.
Tell your boomer parents about us.
Tell your boomers about it. Just not even parents, just tell your boomers. Just call them, tell your boomers. Bring your boomers with you and your zoomers. Bring them all to Moore's Law is Dead. And then also make sure that you subscribe to more Broken Silicon on your podcast app of choice and give us a review. And consider joining us on Patreon. A new die shrink just came out. We actually spent a lot of time talking about Zen 7 and what we expect from the Elder Scrolls 6 for some reason is what we spent most of our time talking about there. So, join the die shrink. Just the $2 tier will get you access to that and the Discord to discuss it with us and hundreds of, actually thousands of other fans there as well. And then I guess to prevent myself from rambling, maybe I already am, let's end the episode. Thanks you for watching, everybody. Thank you for listening, and have a good rest of your week.
Goodbye.
This podcast was brought to you by the YouTube channel and website Moore's Law is Dead. Moore's Law is Dead and Broken Silicon are trademarked by me, the creator, Tom. However, Moore's Law is Dead is much more than just one man. It is a team with Broken Silicon co-hosted by my brother Dan, audio editing by Gerard Cortez, renders done by the industrial designer Jean-Philippe Clermont, and special assistance also provided by Carbon Cry and Carrie No Sugata. Find all of our information at www.mooreslawsdead.com. On the About Support page, in the event you want to hire me for consulting work, or hire Gerard for audio work, Jean-Philippe for industrial design work, or are interested in working with Carbon Cry or Carrie No Sugata as well, you can find all of our information there. You can also find our long-term sponsors there and show them some love for helping make this work possible. Additionally, if you are a fan and would like to mail Moore's Law is Dead some love in a letter or with hardware donations, please mail parcels to Moore's Law is Dead, P.O. Box 60632 in Nashville, Tennessee 37206. And speaking of fans, patrons are what makes Moore's Law is Dead content possible. Every month and every day, actually, depending on the person, me, Gerard, Dan, Jean-Philippe, and more are working tirelessly to provide a steady stream of entertaining content and investigative journalism that aims to be as independent as possible from outside influence. Only direct funding from fans can make this possible in the modern era. And so if you have any extra money every month, even just $1 or $2, consider supporting us directly on Patreon. All members of the Moore's Law is Dead Patreon, even down to the $1.28 128-bit tier, get access to a catalog of dozens of essential die shrink episodes and the ability to ask guest questions ahead of Broken Silicon recordings. Additionally, higher tiers get access to the entire catalog of hundreds of episodes of die shrinks, and these include exclusive interviews with game devs and other guests, behind the scenes looks at Moore's Law is Dead leaks, and more niche coverage of subjects that really only the biggest gaming dorks like me and you would care about. They would not profit on YouTube, but they don't have to profit on Patreon. And so if you're interested in that, you can get access to all of that stuff and even more at higher tiers, like ad-free episodes of Broken Silicon, the ability to ask free questions in Loose Ends live streams ahead of recordings, thanks in the credits of videos and podcasts, and access to the Discord with thousands of fans there who would love to discuss gaming hardware with you. I am one of them. And hey, if you cannot afford to support us, please just share Moore's Law is Dead videos and podcasts with friends and family and on social media and Reddit, and give Broken Silicon a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or your preferred podcast app. All of that stuff does help a ton as well. But as I said, this podcast would not be possible without its patrons directly providing predictable and reliable support every month. And so now is the time to give a personal thanks to the greatest of the fans. The following supporters are at the 1024-bit HBM3 or higher supporter levels: Brad Medlin, Z-Jits, Daniel D, Nicholas Buckner, Deke, Aaron Close, Jen Rauner, MJB1, Daniel Hyde, GZ Ziggy, Jerem Ferrier, Velka Malev, Jensen Wang, Sarcastro, Chris Rich, Evan Dingle, Hal Booma, Shredbird, Sammy Molas, Chrysanthenos, Tommy, Matthew Cassels, Jonathan, Jake223, Jake Martin, Windwing, Dan M, 1988, Zlicky, Amiable Chief, Gamers Unite, I Should, Ian Clifford, Meat and Pork, Tim Robb, Travis Gooding, Zoot Taylor, Mads, Greg, Michael McGee, Stephen Coates, Mark Mitchell, James Anderson, Mark Mark Raidmaker, Salty Internet Pirate, Henry Zhang, Wesley Sager, Cameron, Michelle Pell, Hexapuma, Teak Autumn, Little Germany, The Forbidden Juice, Windstar, James I. Raider, Denny Nguyen, Brett Jones, Chuck Glidden, Stephen Dick, Mac Davey, Justin Bussell, John Swin, Austin Haggerty, Brian Wright, Joe Foote, Brian Scanlon, Hardland, Slushball, RB Racer, Manolis, Radkusis, Bing Bong 3, Solarized 80, Kikum, Sprutnik, Smash, Axley, Cornster 671, Pinta, Winta, Hugo, Ender, Kiwi, Omega Doge, John Wick, Boomstick, Mr. Tiger, Penguins Love AI, Porcelain Oats, AI Soldier 789, Karim El Masri, Fred Burger, Rye Hill, Chi Bulls, Kevin Kuntz, Jonathan Harris, Kai Noosh, Johnny Trans, Zabir Ahmed, Hunter Temple, Arkeo, RK0, Henry Day, Dudester, John Tiberius, OMG Clover, Served, Chilled, and of course, thank you to Sahara for the music.